That wonderful time of year where all these players agree to the amount of money they will be making for the upcoming season, while all the people who don't fully understand how this works think these teams are signing them to entirely brand new contracts or whatever. It's called arbitration. When a player reaches a certain amount of years played, he can negotiate with the team his salary each individual year. This isn't like negotiating a new contract because of the fact they don't become a free agent yet. That doesn't change. Just the amount of money in the upcoming year specifically. It's a more fair way for pre-free agent players to make what they're worth if they're really that good. And I'll admit, when some of those notifications came up with a team and player agreeing to a contract, I jumped thinking it was a real contract extension, only to realize what it really was. Like this one, I genuinely for a split second thought Tarek Skubal, the best pitcher in the American League last year, just signed a big extension with the Tigers before I read the rest. So I'm somewhat guilty of this. I know how it works mostly, but I still get blue-balled a little bit. But yesterday was the deadline for arbitration-eligible players and teams to agree on the 2025 salary. So a ton of this stuff was going down, but you also have the deals that weren't agreed upon. And when deals aren't agreed upon, that's when things get awkward and ugly and not good and bad, which is where we are with multiple arbitration situations right now around the game. Really quick, as always, if you're part of the 56% of viewers not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit the button if you enjoy the videos, as arbitration is why players like Juan Soto, even before becoming a free agent, was making a good amount of money per year, and it only went up because he continued to perform well. Right when players make the league, they make the league minimum salary, which is in the hundreds of thousands. It used to be like 500,000, but it's gone up now. It's like 760,000. It's increased gradually, but anyway, that goes on for a few years, getting paid that amount until they become arbitration eligible. The salary yearly from there goes up into the millions, and depending on how good you are, it goes up a lot. Juan Soto got paid $8.5 million by the Nationals in his first arbitration eligible season in 2021. Then that went up to over $17 million in 2022, $23 million in 2023 with the Padres, and then all the way to $31 million in 2024 with the Yankees. But arbitration, like I said, gets ugly and mostly awkward as hell. Just the idea of it, when the two sides disagree on an amount, because what happens when that happens, if the team goes to a hearing with the player and his agent, I mean, again, this is just the simple fact that a team is taking a player they employ to a hearing to argue why they should pay said player less money. It's very cringe. And as you would expect, a lot of these hearings end up that way. Players get offended and feel disrespected, etc. But what makes it all the worse is the fact that the two sides are usually arguing over like a few $100,000. Maybe it gets up to $1 million or $2 million. And in baseball context, that's of course really nothing. It'd be one thing if the player wanted, like, say $10 million more or something. But to sit in a courtroom and argue why you don't want to pay your own player $500,000 more is like telling someone you don't love them that much before going on a 5-hour car ride somewhere. And it's no secret this hurts the relationship between the two sides and has the player eventually going. Now, of course, it has nothing to do with the player's teammates or anything like that, or the fans or nothing in that sort. Obviously, teammates will always have their backs because, well, they're players too, and they all want players to make money. It's good for everyone. So it's not that it affects certain parts of a team like that. It's just more so the relationship between player and front office / ownership, which is important enough because, you know, those guys have the biggest say in what players play for the team. And again, those hearings can get pretty ugly because remember, it's a hearing. Both sides are trying to win. So on the team's end, they're literally going out of their way to find ways to justify why their own player is not as good as he thinks he is and that he deserves less money while he's there in the room, and then eventually putting on your uniform and going into your clubhouse. Yeah, here's why you don't deserve as much money as you think you do, even if it's for a few extra $100,000. Back in 2018, when Marcus Stroman was in his last couple years as a Blue Jay, he went to a hearing with the team over a difference of $400,000. He wanted $6.9 million, that naughty son of a bitch, I know what you were doing, but the team wanted to pay him $6.5 million. An independent arbitrator ruled in the Blue Jays' favor, so he'd be making $6.5, and Stroman immediately took to Twitter and said the negative things that were said against me by my own team will never leave my mind. About 1 hour later, he took back those claims, or at least addressed them, while also deleting that first tweet, saying that he was just being real and isn't mad, is aware of the business, and that it just opens your eyes going through the arbitration process. He still loves the team and the entire country of Canada, and was apparently more upset that he had to fly to Arizona and miss his Monday workout. Whether that's all true or not, the bottom line is the hearing rubbed him the wrong way, clearly. And I purposefully put Stroman as the first example here because a lot of your first thoughts will justifiably be, it's Marcus Stroman. He gets offended over everything. And yes, Yes, he does, but it's absolutely not just him when it comes to the arbitration stuff. Let's go to a big throwback. Sean Casey, just about the opposite of Marcus Stroman, someone who in his playing days was always mostly just a goofball, never angry or anything like that, a fun dude, and just a nice dude overall, genuinely. He's currently an analyst on MLB Network and has been for years, and he's basically just your innocent but wild uncle. He's awesome. That's basically how I know him because I wasn't around during his playing days. Well, even he was pissed at the Cincinnati Reds during his arbitration hearing years ago, where he was asking for $3 million while the team was only willing to go as high as $2.7 million, even after he said he'd compromise at $2.8. So they go through this process, and during a brief break during this 4-hour hearing, Casey started to vent to his wife Mandy, who he wanted there to experience what the business side of baseball was like. And again, Sean Casey, a guy who's never like this, was so angry at this whole situation. He was finding it crazy they were even there at all. According to another MLB Network analyst and former player Harold Reynolds, he said that his teammate Julio Cruz told him regarding the arbitration hearing room, "You never want to go in that room. You'll never be the same player coming out. You'll never see the organization the same way. The longer you can fool yourself that it's a business, the better off you are." Back in 1982, Pedro Guerrero was asked about the arbitrator who cast the deciding vote against him in his lost case against the Dodgers after his third place finish in the 1982 MVP voting, to which Guerrero reportedly said he was going to kill the arbitrator. But to be fair, it's not like that was the only person Guerrero wanted to kill. But arbitration really is all like talking politics. It brings out the absolute worst in any person imaginable. And the best latest example I can think of is Corbin Burnes a couple years ago after he went to an arbitration hearing with the Brewers over $740,000. A guy who won a Cy Young Award like a couple years before that. They didn't want to give him an extra $740,000. Now, Burnes is another guy who is, as far as I can tell, drama-free. Seems just very normal, calm. You'll see him smiling. But after losing his arbitration hearing with the Brewers before the 2023 season during spring training, after asking for $10.75 million and losing the case and getting $10.01 million instead, Burnes spoke to the media publicly about it and did not hold back. And even when he didn't hold back, he seemed pretty calm. So that just shows how this situation really does make anyone get angry, even the most drama-free like Corbin Burnes. But he went up in front of the media and blatantly said that his relationship was now hurt with the team. Here's more context.
Yeah, like I say, you kind of find out your true value. You think you work hard for 7 years in the organization and 5 years with the big league team, and you get in there and basically they value you much different than what you thought you contributed to the organization. See, it's tough to hear, it's tough to take, but they're trying to do what they can to win a hearing. But I think there was obviously other ways that they could have gone about it. Probably been a little more respectful with the way they went about it, but at the end of the day, here we are. I mean, there's no denying that the relationship is definitely hurt from what perspired over the last couple weeks. There's really no way getting around that.
The Brewers are already a team that doesn't really spend, so it's not like their chances of keeping Burnes long-term was that great anyway. But when this happened, I mean, it was as clear as anything. He was not going to be a Brewer for much longer, and he wasn't. He was traded a year later. And with the latest wave of arbitration agreements, most are settled, so a hearing never happens. In fact, 18 teams this time were able to come to terms with all of their arbitration-eligible players by the Thursday deadline. But that means there are 10 teams left to make up all 30 that have at least one player they didn't agree with. The Cubs and Red Sox specifically had one player they couldn't come to an agreement with, and what are we doing? And yes, I know it's actually 12 teams left for the final 30. 18 plus 10 is 28, not 30. I just want to see how long you'd freak out before I clarify that. Anyway, first off, Kyle Tucker and the Cubs. He's asking for $17.5 million, while the Cubs want to pay him $15. Okay, you just traded for the damn guy. And what's tricky about the trade is the fact that Tucker's only a year away from free agency. So the Cubs might only end up with Tucker for a single year, which wouldn't be ideal, obviously, to trade away valuable assets like they did to Houston for just 1 year of Tucker. He's a great player who will demand a lot of money on the free agent market. So again, the Cubs keeping him long-term should be a priority. They just traded for him and are already saying they don't want to pay him an extra $2.5 million. Yeah, great way to start a relationship. Like, you're just asking for this to be a one-night stand. Maybe I'm stupid, but I really just don't understand the point in refusing to give your newest, now best player on the team an extra couple $1,000,000 when that clearly is nothing for the team. Now, you can look at this obviously in multiple ways. You can look at the player and call him greedy for wanting an extra few million when he's already making a lot regardless. And this goes for every player I've talked about so far, any player that goes to a hearing with the team and wants some more money. You can call them greedy, sure, but I'm sorry, which side is the one with the owner owners that are worth money that goes into the billions and owns teams that are worth billions of dollars, I don't think the players should be painted in a bad light, because in reality, by this same logic, the owners are just as cheap as the players might be greedy. I don't know. I'm not telling you how to think, and I fully myself don't think players can just get unlimited money all the time, whatever, obviously. But I think especially when you're a player of a certain caliber like Corbin Burnes was to the Brewers, or Kyle Tucker has been to the Astros and now will be to the Cubs, I just don't understand why, as an owner and as a team with endless money compared to what the players are asking for, feels the need to make things really weird and uncomfortable just to save a couple extra bucks. I mean, what are the Cubs going to do with an extra $2.5 million that they don't give to Kyle Tucker? Again, not a hot start to the relationship between the Cubs and their now clear best player, who they shouldn't prefer to have for just a year after trading away what they did for him. But then I have a situation I feel is even worse, and that's over with the Red Sox and their one player who they didn't agree to a settlement with and will be going to an arbitration hearing for, and that's Jarren Duran. Duran has only made the league minimum in his career so far, so this is his first year of the ability to get a lot more money in arbitration than he's been making, and the Red Sox are already, in my opinion, mistreating him in his situation. He's asking for $4 million. The Red Sox want to pay him $3.5 million. We're talking about a guy who just led baseball in doubles with almost 50 of them, led all of baseball in triples, missed just 2 games all year because he called a fan a bundle of sticks or twigs bound together as fuel, a word that can also mean a cigarette. I think you get what I mean. So he played every damn day, led baseball in plate appearances, at-bats, provided elite speed and defense, finished top 8 in MVP voting, was an all-star, and get this, had a higher wins above replacement, aka WAR, than Juan Soto. Now, I'm not saying he's better than Juan Soto. He's not. But according to that stat, because he provided so much defense and speed along with his solid hitting, he was more valuable than Juan Soto. And even if you don't take that for face value, which I don't, you have to at least acknowledge that he was up there with players like Juan Soto for adding value to their teams last year. So in other words, Jarren Duran was freaking incredible in 2024. So despite all of that, the Red Sox are planning to look at Jarren Duran with a straight face and tell him that they don't feel like he's worth an extra $500,000. I'm almost at a loss for words here. This makes absolutely no sense to me. It really doesn't. Duran is, I'd say, the Red Sox' current second best player on the team after Rafael Devers. Yet the Red Sox think it's okay or smart to go to war with him over $500,000. Why? Just what? Why can't you just pay him what he wants? What do you gain from winning that argument or lose by having to give him that extra $500K? It's like these teams are secretly being controlled and pressured by Mr. Krabs, and if they don't abide by his preposterous cheap ways, he punishes them with death. I'm not about to go real with that conspiracy theory, though, because the world isn't ready for it.
I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet. But your kids are going to love it.
$4 million is nothing to a team, especially to a franchise like the Boston Red Sox. What are we doing here? Why are you going out of your way to hurt the relationship with one of your top players, not just on the team, one of your top players in all of baseball right now? It's beyond me. I don't understand it. You're actively hurting such a valuable relationship, and for what? Same with the Cubs. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Let me know your thoughts, and thank you for watching.